Welcome to Hastings Community Television. My name is Tim Collins and I'm the Superintendent of the Hastings School District. And with me today is maybe a familiar face for some of you, but he's been away for a while, Joe Haas, who's our Assistant Principal at the middle school. And I just wanted to take this opportunity to introduce you to Joe, talk with him a little bit about being back, where he's been, some of his leadership role as Assistant Principal at the middle school. And then also I want to talk about Vision 2025. There's 3 focus groups for Vision 2025, and that's wellness, technology, and academics. And Joe and I are both involved in the technology side. So I just wanted to give you a little inside view of technology and how it impacts our students and you as citizens as well. So just starting out, Joe, just tell us a little bit about your history growing up in Hastings, what happened after that, the things that you can share. Just tell us a little bit about Joe Haas.
Absolutely. Growing up in Hastings, going through elementary, middle, and high school here, was involved in a lot of activities, athletics, plays, choir, marching band, and so, to have Hastings offer those opportunities, it really gave me a broad perspective heading out into post-secondary education, and had a lot of great teachers, great administrators in this district, and that kind of led me down the road to become a teacher and then eventually an administrator in a school setting. I went to the University of Wisconsin-Eau Claire. Gotten my degree in physical science, comprehensive education, and was fortunate enough to come back in January of 2002 and teach here up at the high school, physics and chemistry for 6.5 years, and also was able to coach there. Knew I wanted to make a broader impact, and oftentimes that entails kind of going the administrative route, being able to reach more people, have a little bit more responsibility, and ended up getting my master's in educational administration and then my principal licensure K through 12 above and beyond that. And when the time was right and an opportunity came up, I headed over to Delano, Minnesota, which is a small town about 30 miles west of Target Field over in Minneapolis. And I was the activities director there for 2 years. And then a middle school assistant principal job opened up, and I knew I had wanted to be more on the academic route, even though I love activities because I was involved in a lot of activities growing up. That came up and I was afforded that opportunity, and that really started growing my leadership skills in that capacity. And then fortunately I was able to come back home starting last year, and I'm currently in that same role as the middle school assistant principal beginning of last year.
So when you're at the high school and you were a coach, what areas did you coach in?
My very first year it was soccer, and then I helped out with Nordic skiing and track, and then I became the head coach of cross-country running, and then still being an assistant in the Nordic ski program, and then became the head track coach as well.
Okay, and you said that Delano, 30 miles from Target Field.
Yeah, it's just, kind of going with landmarks, and it seemed...
Well, I know that you also like the Twins.
I do.
And so I'm guessing that you knew right on your car odometer 30 miles. It's because you've been to a few games probably.
Yeah, I've been to a few. My mom's a huge fan, and so she lived on this side of town, and so we'd meet over there and go to a game, and it's just when people say Delano, isn't that North Dakota? It's really not that far over, but it seems to be, so I picked that western side of Minneapolis and just say 30 miles from there.
Yeah, you know what's... when you said that, that's exactly what I thought. In my mind, I thought Delano would probably be like an hour and 20 minutes north of the metro or west. And I did not realize that, even though I've been there, I did not realize it was that close. So, well, we're definitely glad to have you back and as an integral leader within our middle school and our school as a whole, because we're small enough where it's just not the middle school. You get your statements, you get your thoughts of what we're doing district-wide as well in an administrative meeting. Tell us, so at the middle school, I know that there's different roles that you play, and I know that Mark Zuzik definitely wants you and Justin Hahn and Jackie Cobian to assume a variety of roles. So what are a couple of your roles that you have been assigned at our middle school in Hastings?
First and foremost, being a building leader in any aspect. We really do consider ourselves an administrative team, and really share a lot of those duties. So I observe and evaluate staff and get to work with them during their professional growth. I work with student discipline, and we kind of have a unique way to do it, where last year I was in charge of 5th and 7th grade, and then this year I'm in charge of 6th and 8th grade. So we get to follow the student and really build those close relationships with the students and the families that we serve. And so student discipline, student attendance, because it's the law to go to school. And so we're charged with monitoring attendance and keeping track of students when they're there and when they're not there. Part of the district professional development committee, looking at that not only building wide but as a whole, and where are our teachers moving, and what are best practices and promising practices that we need to help our teachers grow in. So I've been tasked with that. Kind of a newer initiative is PBIS, which is Positive Behavior Intervention Support Systems, really working on the behavioral piece within the classroom and within the school, because academics and behavior go hand in hand in a school setting. Just to be more predictable in where we want to go with both academics and the expected behaviors of our students. Other than that, also Vision 2025 is a big piece that you mentioned before. I'm just trying to think, because it is broad. There are many hats that we wear. So Vision 2025 and the district tech committee as well, I'm a part of. Just to see where we are moving with technology, not only tools, but the vision of what's technology really used for. So I'm tasked with that as well.
I think that's the beauty specifically at our high school and our middle school site, where we have more than just one principal as a leader. I know that Mike Johnson and Mark Zuzik, they both rely on it as a team, and they don't just say that, I am the lead principal. We know that when it comes time to tough decisions, they have to make that final decision. But really giving the responsibility to other leaders within the building is definitely part of the key to our success. When you think back to when you were a middle schooler at Hastings, compare that now to the experience that you see middle schoolers going through. Do you see much of a difference in students or expectations? Or I know the technology is different, and we'll talk about that. But when you think back, a lot of times people say, "Oh, those kids, they're getting worse. It's worse than my generation. It's tougher than any generation. They're not as respectful, etc." What do you see in the life of a 12-year-old and 11-year-old, maybe compared to back when you were in middle school? What do you see as some of the differences, good or bad?
I don't know if I see a lot of differences. I just look at when I was in middle school, we had a lot of kids involved in activities, which is important. Now we have a lot of kids involved in activities. When I was in school, kids are expected to go to class and be on time and be engaged in learning. Today we expect kids be on time, engaged in learning. Technology is a big difference. When I grew up, we didn't have cell phones. We had to talk to people a lot face to face, and if we wanted to go over to a neighbor's house, we'd call them on a landline, which houses don't have anymore, and it wasn't attached to our hip. I think technology is the biggest difference between our kids now. I think a bigger challenge now, when I was going through middle school, we had careers that we knew were there, and now studies come out and say we're preparing kids for jobs that aren't even out there yet. And so the focus shifts more to those 21st century skills that I know you've talked about in the academic side of Vision 2025, is the problem solving, the critical thinking. No matter what problem comes down the future, are we training our kids and teaching our kids how to solve any problem that arises? Big, it was engineering or wanting to be a doctor or a teacher, or you knew you were going to go into a trade. Well, now even in the trade field, we don't know what, for lack of a better term, what robots, you hear the term robots can do versus what we're going to expect humans to do. And so the biggest change is trying to educate kids on how to solve problems that aren't around yet.
And I'm glad that you started out, Joe first started out, and I talked about this on our radio show. We had a Veterans Day program at our middle school about a week ago now, and I think that anybody who was live and in attendance saw what Joe talked about, and I'm glad that he mentioned it, that back when he went to school in Hastings, respect was expected from students. We still have that today. It was expected that you work extremely hard in classes, and Joe had mentioned earlier that he is in charge of discipline. It could have been very easy for him to say, oh man, I deal with discipline all the time, it's really bad. It's the same as it was 20 years ago and 30 years ago, and you and I can attest to that kids are still great kids, still coming from good families with expectations, and we still have those expectations in our school system. And I agree with you, the technology has had a lot of transformation, a lot of good issues, some struggling issues that we deal with, and I want to talk about that a little bit now in our second segment of the show, and that is technology and terms that I shared with probably about a week ago in the newspaper, an article about digital citizenship and digital literacy, words that weren't even really around back when I graduated from high school or college, weren't even concepts. Somebody would have said digital literacy, I would have, what? What are you talking about? But it ties into the responsible citizenship that we expect in our schools and in our community, and the transformation that has had on our community. Vision 2025 has really been an opportunity for school board members, administrators, and myself to sit and listen to the community about what is important, what do you believe are some of the things that we should focus in on as a school. And through that dialogue with our community, it's been 3 areas, and some of them are pretty broad. Academics is one of them. That touches a lot of areas and will always be one of our priorities. Technology and wellness. And one of the things that we learned through our dialogue with the community over the last 18 months is one of the weaknesses to our school system is that we don't communicate about everything that is going on in our school. Brag a little, share what's going on, share what we're talking about, what is happening, and that we don't have enough of that level of communication. So Joe and I are here today just to talk a little bit about those 2 aspects in the technology area, and we want to start out with digital literacy. And I know right now up on the screen, we've come up with our terminology for digital literacy. It's basically that when students leave the Hastings School District, they have the ability to read, understand, evaluate, and then apply their digital media and images in a multiple of formats and environments. Okay, so what does that really mean? How does that apply to the school district? What are some of the things that we are doing? And maybe not specifically on digital literacy, but Joe, just give 1 or 2 examples to the community of how we're using technology within our school system right now.
Research, first and foremost. When we're looking for things, there's an abundance of information out there, whether it's a social studies project on World War II or a science research paper. The ability to go to a computer lab or use an iPad or even use your own device if a teacher allows it, to appropriately go out to sites and to be able to navigate, as you said, understand and evaluate appropriate information versus inappropriate information. So that's kind of one general way that we're using it more and more. We don't have to be the content deliverers. We can help students navigate the content that they're finding to help them understand, hey, it is important, or since anyone can put anything out on the internet, maybe this isn't the best source to use. So research is a big thing, a big way that we use technology. Differentiating instruction and bringing it, I don't want to say individualize it, but it allows you to open doors for kids to do more things at their own level. I know our math lab has been up and running to help kids that need some extra math skills, and they're using some digital platforms like Schoology, and they have iPads or Chromebooks in there where they can set, and it's a blended class of 6th through 8th graders. And so we have some kids 6th grade level, 8th grade level, 7th grade level working on different things. Technology allows them to all be in the same classroom and work on the skills at an individual level that they need to work on. Some of our math teachers are using what's called a flipped classroom model. And what that is you're taking the most important parts of that lesson, that student outcome that students need to come away with, and you're creating a video, or you're making a video of that lesson that students can watch over and over and over until they get it. They can watch it before the lesson, they can watch it after the lesson, and then the teacher's role during class is to really help them apply those skills, those math content skills and standards that students are supposed to come away with after 6th grade year, 7th grade year, 8th grade year.
And I think that Joe talked about the ability the literacy ability of being able to go out and use a variety of resources, knowing which resources are reliable, knowing which resources are factual, and will get you the information in a format that you can then collaborate either with a classmate or your teacher or your group and present it in a meaningful way. I also think that at our middle school, you hear that a lot of schools will go with a one-on-one initiative where they'll give every student an iPad, or they'll give every student a Chromebook, or a laptop, or a LearnPad. Joe mentioned just real briefly that at the middle school, students have the opportunity to use Chromebooks. Mm-hmm. They have the opportunity to use iPads. Mm-hmm. They can go into a lab and use a hardwired computer, which has almost become the old-fashioned technology use. Mm-hmm. And do we have laptops necessarily that they could use maybe in our library media at the middle school?
We have some that sometimes teachers check out, but we use so many open source materials, meaning web materials, and so the Chromebooks are a cheaper model to use. They look like laptops, but it's through Google Chrome and those open source spaces, the World Wide Web, if you will. And so we don't have a lot of laptops due to the sheer expense. And so we look at, when we meet as a building technology committee, do we need laptops? Or if we're going to word process, maybe we can go into just a hardware regular computer to do that. And if we're doing other things that need something from the web, like IXL when kids are going on to do some standards-based math skills, or Study Island to work on some science skills at that standard level, we don't need a full-out laptop. We can use something that's cheaper that still gets the job done.
I think then the other aspect of it is, as students are using multiple formats, multiple handheld devices, multiple uses of technology, it's also the digital citizenship, or using it respectfully and knowing that they're not hurting another person by what they're saying digitally, or knowing that they're not infringing on copyrights, or the fact that they're not putting themselves in danger with the social media that's out there. As a middle school principal, just share, and I guess this would be a potential drawback to technology in our schools, just share, and we try to teach our students, as we talked earlier, the respect when you'd go to a Vietnam vets program, the respect that when a teacher walks by you, the respect that when a law enforcement officer walks by you. We're also teaching the respect with social media and the technology. Maybe share one or two areas where that's cropped into a discipline issue or an educational moment for you as a principal, as, hey, you need to become a better citizenship with technology in our middle school or other schools that you've heard about.
Yeah, and some of the situations are inadvertent and some are blatant out there, just like somebody face-to-face calling somebody a name or just being mean. That happens on Snapchat, Twitter, Instagram, where students will say mean things because sometimes it's easier to do it over the phone and on a chat line than it is face-to-face. And so that will creep into the school, and sometimes it'll start in school and sometimes it won't, but it'll creep in, and we help navigate that situation. And you know, sometimes as a disciplinarian we have to give consequences. A lot of times it's that learning piece to it, on how it's not only affecting the student that another student may be calling a name to, mm-hmm. but now it's out on the World Wide Web and it's there. Mm-hmm. You may think you can delete it, but it's out there somewhere, and so it's a learning opportunity. And oftentimes it's not only a learning opportunity for the kids, it's a learning opportunity for the parents as well.
Well, I just want to stop you there. I think that's very important, that back, and I'm older than you, but back in my day, that if I said something to you that hurt you, it was just you that heard it, typically. Or maybe a few people. But now when you put that statement out on the web, now what I've said to you has become public and hurtful, and 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people have seen it. And then part of that digital citizenship is to teach our students to respect it. Hey, if you see something like that, say something about it that it's not appropriate, but don't forward it. Mm-hmm. Don't continue with the problem. And I just want to make that's a huge point that students don't realize. They believe that they're saying it in the moment to one student, but it's circulating faster than ever before in any generation.
It's like wildfire.
Yeah.
I mean, the way it spreads, and our kids have done a good job of being good bystanders. That's what we talk about when bullying in physical spaces. If you're a bystander, you're going to try and do something to help it stop. And we've had kids come in and say, hey, this is a concern, because you're not only sending it to one person. There are peripheral people, kids, adults. I mean, there's a way that as a parent, you can get every text message your son or daughter gets sent to you in an email. And we've had instances where parents get their child's email or text accounts and they've said, hey, this is a concern. Will you help us out with it? And you talked about the inadvertent ways. Sometimes when you're researching, and I'm sure people out there that have researched, you type something in where you think it's going to bring you to in Google, and sometimes something inappropriate comes up. And if we see that at school, and we have a lot of sites blocked, but if it comes up, we run a little investigation to make sure that it was inadvertent and we weren't purposefully looking at things we shouldn't be looking at. And so we try and put those standards into place. And we tell kids, before we're doing a research project, we want them to come up with some sources, but we also guide them on what safe sources are out there to do their research on and what to look up.
I think also, you had talked before we went on the air and the taping of this, is that a lot of times this digital world, this digital cyberbullying or digital making a statement to somebody that you think is okay because you have freedom of speech. Mm-hmm. It's not happening during the school day. It's not happening from 8 till 3:30 or 8 till 5. A lot of times the use of the digital media is happening 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock at night, 7 o'clock at night. And so as always, we need our parents to help us with digital citizenship, just like we need our parents to help with homework, expectations at school, expectations out in the public. And we sometimes as a school get caught in, well, should we be interfering if that was said off of school grounds? And just share your thought about that, because you have children coming up, and someday one of your sons might say something to somebody else on whatever the newest technology is, and it might happen at 10 o'clock at night. Why does the school district have the right and or responsibility to get involved on and or when something is said outside of the school day?
Well, it's our responsibility to create a safe learning environment. And more often than not, sometimes it does start in school and move to outside and continue on social media. Sometimes it starts on social media and then moves inside to school where people don't feel safe. And so that's the stance we take on it, and it's our job to provide that safe, engaging learning environment for all of our students. And if things are happening outside, this is a place where we all come together as a community and are in the same space together, and we don't want it to blow up further. And so we try and take measures to address it. Does it always mean a consequence? No. Like I mentioned before, sometimes it's that learning opportunity and just the message that we know this is going on, and it may not be happening yet in school, and we want it to stop outside. We don't always have the arms to reach that far, but while we're in school, this is the expected behavior, and some possible consequences for that. Sometimes it's out of our hands and into law enforcement hands, depending on the severity of what they're sharing. And I don't want it to sound like that's all kids do. There's a lot of positive things, and just like passing notes in school when we didn't have the technology of inappropriate things, the majority of kids are doing great things with technology. And so I want to make sure that we get that out there too, is that they're more than not are doing the right thing with the technology they have.
And I think we're going to close on that, because that was something that we alluded to midway through our discussion, that kids are as good as they've ever been. They're as respectful as they've ever been. They're more challenged than I was in school, because technology is challenging them because they can do more than what I could do. And so there's a lot of stress on them as well. But part of the program today, I just wanted to introduce Joel back to the Hastings community and his role as an assistant principal. I wanted to talk about Vision 2025 and our 3 focus areas of academics, technology, and wellness. And then I also wanted to take a little time to share about 2 key components of the technology focus group, and that's letting the community know that we talk about digital literacy, and that's a new area of learning for our students and expectations for our students. And then digital citizenship for our students, well, and for our adults too, because adults are involved in digital citizenship as well. And we're going to need your help with that as well. So Joe, thanks a lot for joining us today and helping educate the community. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Hastings Community TV.